their age difference is extraordinary, and seeing those two in that race there just fighting at the top was, yeah, it's really cool to see the young guys kind of pushing through, and the kind of experience of people like Flo holding his own.
Yeah, as an older person, I'm actually quite interested to see if the Flo Grubers of this world are able to hold on and to show that this is a game potentially for longer than your late 20s. But I mean, the jury's out, isn't it? At the moment, it's the younger guns that are setting the standard, setting the pace, and so we can't say. But I mean, you know the Mader family very well anyway. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you think Max Mader will retain his interest in kitefoil racing long enough to go through to Brisbane?
I hope so. I would love to see him compete there. I know he used to love ski racing before this, so maybe he'll find a new sport and go to excel at that. But yeah, I have no idea, but I know that he loves kiting with all his heart, so I have no doubt that he'll kind of push through as long as he can.
Now, Max Mader is the oldest brother. I was going to go to a Carl Mader interview, who's brother number 2, but I understand we might be able to get back to the racecourse fairly soon. So let's see if we can get a picture of the racecourse. I'm not sure if we can. Well, I think we should keep on talking. I'm not too sure when we can get back to the sailing. Yeah, so we if you're a regular viewer of our live streams, you'll know that there's a third brother, Valentin Jr., VJ, who's 7 years old, and he occasionally does make an appearance in the booth and adds his own wisdom. And who knows? He do you think? Again, crystal ball time, but we've got 2 out of 3 Maders that are taking kitefoil racing really, really seriously.
Yeah.
One of them definitely going to the games, another one trying to get to the games, and then VJ, who hasn't stood on a kitefoiler yet. Do you think VJ might get out of the commentary booth and get onto a foil in the future?
I would love to see that. I know that he really enjoyed his first kite lessons this year. I think for his 7th birthday, his main birthday present was some kite surfing lessons, and he's a natural, so I'm sure he'll take to the foiling really fast, and it would be so fun to see all 3 of them out there competing together. And VJ's such a personality, just like, well, all 3 of those brothers are complete different characters in their own right. So, yeah.
So we got just 1 minute before the start of the next race, and it was Max Mader who won the first race. And in the women, putting her first win on the board so far for this regatta, the Italian rider Sofia Tomasoni. So great to see Tomasoni doing so well on home waters. And let's see if she can take another win from the leading lights like Nolo, Whitehead and Lengweiler from Switzerland, who are currently our top 3 overall in the women. Now, Jimmy, based on what we saw last time round and which way were they going up the racetrack, what's your favourite starting option here?
Oh yeah, I think I'd probably be a bit more boat end start, but as we've seen before, those battles for the boat can result in kite tangles. So you want to be in a bit of space, maybe a little bit further down the line, but with some nice clean air and a clean lane, so you can tack over to that right hand side as soon as possible. 5
seconds to go, and as Jimmy said, it's going to be very busy up at the boat end because everyone wants to be in that spot. Right, they're off. Let's see if it's a clear start. It's Lauriane Nolot in the yellow there. She's had a really good start coming out the middle of the line. So far, so good for Nolot. But look at the port tack starters. There's a number of them. There's about 7 or 8 port tack starters really beautifully executed. And when we can work out who those are, who have got across the top of the starboard tackers, we'll let you know. And I'm wondering if Yannis Maus is one of them, because the German loves a port tack start and he's very, very good at judging when to take them. Clear start, so everyone is in this race still, no one disqualified. But I see some kites in trouble in the middle of the screen, and I just wonder if the wind is just on the edge of saleable right now. What do you think, Jimmy?
It's definitely on the edge. I think minimising your manoeuvres and getting out to the right-hand side was a good call. So our port tackers were indeed, so it was the German rider Florian Gruber. We had Maximilian up there with his brother Carl Mader. He was on the red VMG that we saw, and that was a brave move, but it paid for them. I think with everyone bunching up at that starboard end, it just gave them the space to do that, and you can see them dominating up the on the left of our screen there.
So Max Mader, I don't recall seeing him do port tack starts before. I'm sure it does happen, but he reserves that only for special occasions. So he obviously felt that this was important enough to take the risk, and he made it work, which impresses me because Max Mader, good as he is at pretty much everything on kite foiling, I don't know how much chance he gets to practice a port tack start across such a big fleet. Anyway, it's working for him, and it's a battle between Max Mader, Flo Gruber, Riccardo Pianozzi from Italy, another German Yannis Maus, a port tack favourite, and Carl Mader, the second, the 15-year-old Mader, also doing very well so far.
And really nice to see him and his teammate Jan Stragiotti as well, two of the young Swiss riders, in really establishing that top 10 in this race.
But what of Lorenzo Boschetti? He's just inside the top 10, but he's back in about 8th place. So this is not going to go well in terms of trying to take points away from Max Mader, because it's the bottom of the screen, our race leader. It's Max Mader. It's just incredible. Speaking to Cameron Marimonides, who was overtaken by Max Mader yesterday, he was almost speaking like Max Mader has a Midas touch. He always finds a way through, it seems.
He does indeed always find a way through. I think yesterday his explanation was just doing the little things right and not making mistakes. And even the smallest mistakes on a race course like this can cost you the win. And that's what happened between Cameron and Max yesterday. It was as simple as a ley line call, and we can see Max has cleaned up his ley line for this one really nicely.
And as you predicted at the beginning of the session, Jimmy, Flo Gruber is very good in the light winds, and he had a great first race. He's now in second in the next race, followed by Pianozzi, then Maus, then Dolence, then Carl Mader, and then Jan Andrea Stragiotti, two Swiss competing side by side on this race course, and then Lorenzo Boschetti inside the top 10 but only just. And it's no one jibed yet, so just a straight downwind on starboard. Now about third and fourth have jibed out, but this was where Max Mader took the early jibe last time, and Nochet from France carried on, and it was the carrying on that seemed to be the stronger move, do you think?
Exactly. You can see him kind of learning from that race before, and he's holding on a little bit further.
And actually, when you have the bird's eye view using the metasail tracking, you can see that the making jibe is on starboard, and there's more starboard to be sailed on this downwind leg than there is port, so it's the safer option. But we do see the front three jibing now. Max Mader doing close to 27 knots downwind. Riccardo Pianozzi has overtaken Flo Gruber, so Pianozzi pushing really hard, and this is starting to look more like the duel that I thought we would see this week, Jimmy.
Absolutely. So Riccardo is a weapon on the downwind. His speed is so good, and we saw him at the European Championships in Portsmouth. He was excellent in these light wind conditions, so today it's really working for him. Both him and Maximilian jibing at the moment for that ley line.
So these two at youth level have stood on the podium side by side so often, but so often it's been Mader who has had the advantage over Pianozzi. Mader often getting the gold medal at youth level, and Pianozzi getting typically getting the silver medal. Now Max Mader was away winning the Asian Games in China, so wasn't able to do the Europeans, but in the absence of Max Mader, Riccardo Pianozzi less than a month ago won his first senior European title, and I was hoping that we would see more of Pianozzi up at the front, but at least he is this time. He's fighting for first place with Max Mader.
And we can see that it's super light at that leeward mark. All of the riders having to pump just to get back up to speed there. We saw Flo Gruber with a really good high rounding, and all of them tacking over to get that right-hand side. I think the breeze is a little stronger there, a bit more established.
Now, what about Lorenzo Boschetti? He rounded the top mark in 7th or 8th place, maybe even further back, and he's pulled up into the top 3 or 4. He's back in a battle with Flo Gruber just as he was in the previous race. So Boschetti has got his skates on, and Boschetti is making up ground.
Really impressive from Lorenzo. He's had such a solid regatta so far, and he is really, really pushing. I think he's not happy with anything other than a kind of a top 2 here. So, yeah, he's doing an extraordinary job.
Well, he's looking to create a selection headache for the Italian Federation, because Riccardo Pianozzi winning the Europeans, Boschetti was there as well, but Pianozzi winning the Europeans, Lorenzo Boschetti was under pressure to make a statement, and that's certainly what he's managed to do so far. So he is determined to make sure that Pianozzi is not going to earn the Olympic spot lightly for Italy, and right now it's still anyone's game between those two, do you think, Jimmy?
Absolutely. We've seen them kind of shine at different events, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't call it. They're both exceptional riders.
And it's also important for Flo Gruber to be doing well. He was second last week in Traunsee in Austria, because he needs to prove that he is still in the running against Yannis Maus, who's had a really good season. But Flo Gruber is ahead of Yannis Maus in this race, and Gruber also determined to prove that he is still worthy of consideration for sailing for Germany next year in the Olympic Games. Coming up towards the top of the course for the second time, and it's close between Maida and Pianozzi, the two teenagers, the 17-year-old Maida against the 18-year-old Pianozzi, with the so-called old man of the fleet, the soon-to-be 30-year-old Flo Gruber in third place, being chased by Lorenzo Boschetti from Italy. And that's Maida on the right of your picture. That's Pianozzi about to come round in second. Maida first, Pianozzi in second. Look, it's going to be close between.
Oh, pumping for the windward mark there. That's a pretty tight ley line.
Who's going to make it? Flo Gruber just round, but Boschetti gets round the inside of him. So could be Boschetti has just moved up into third, and round in fifth, Yannis Maus. And then Cameron Maramonides not far behind him. So Yannis Maus chasing his fellow German rider, and Boschetti, who may have just overtaken Flo Gruber. We'll find out in a moment.
We can see Cameron Maramonides there, and Carl Maida on that red VMG doing a great job keeping up with these front guys.
And Jakub Jukowski also up there in the front few as well. So Jakub Jukowski going well today, and having had a good first race as well. I don't know if Jukowski is anywhere close to being able to get up into the top 10 by the end of the day. He's in 15th at the moment, the Polish rider, so if he keeps up performances like this, then maybe Jukowski can climb into the top 10, which is the cut-off that everybody is keeping in mind today. Max Maida leading down towards the bottom of the course, and the wind has shifted even more, so there's almost no port jibe to be done on this run now. The wind has shifted during the course of this race, and it's very much down in one in starboard with just a couple of quick jibes at the bottom. So that's making it increasingly easy for Maida to hold on to his lead, because the tactical opportunities to attack from opposite sides of the course are reducing.
You can see the rest of the fleet pumping really hard to get that windward mark. And that's a crazy shift for that downwind.
Max Maida with just a short leg on port. He's back on starboard now. He's leading around the bottom of the course. He's got to avoid that kite in the water. That's not in a great place. Of course, they don't want to be there either. But now it's Pianozzi skimming around the arc of that kite down in the water. And this shows you that for the less experienced riders, these are really tricky conditions. just to keep the kite in the sky. And it's a reminder that most of the power being generated by these kites is by the apparent wind. It's not by the real wind. It's the combination of the real wind. It's like the starter motor in your car, but it's the apparent wind that is the real petrol in the engine.
And it's a kind of good indication for these guys coming through. If you see a kite down, you know to keep your eyes out. It's going to be light. You have to really, really do a good job going into these maneuvers. You can see Max even pumping into the reach. This is usually the fastest part of the course, but if these guys are pumping, you know it's very challenging out there.
So Max Mader approaching the finish line, about to take his second win from 2 races today. Pianozzi in second, and then a really close battle between Boschetti and Gruber, not dissimilar to the previous race. Seems like Boschetti and Gruber are stuck together with a piece of elastic today. Now look at this, Max Mader having to work like crazy just to get across the finish line. The breeze is really light down the bottom of the course. Mader just having to put in a bit of leg work. And he manages to get away with it. And
a double jibe for the finish line.
Oh, so he's not even, yeah.
He's not even across yet, so you can tell it's really like crazy shift. So this line isn't the angle that it should be. But he's made a good call to jibe early there. Even then, that's going to be a struggle through the line, but he just about makes it.
And he managed to look over his shoulder to see where Riccardo Pianozzi was, and he can relax now.
What a wacky race for these guys.
Mader looking around, just seeing how things are working out. What he will see is that he's stretching the points even further on Lorenzo Boschetti, who is 4th across the line behind Flo Gruber in 3rd. But who's this kite down? Someone's not quite making it across the finish. And that is potentially a great finish about to go to waste if they can't get across the line. So
making it tricky for the rider just above him. And then we can see Carl Mader on that red VMG.
Now, what's the rule? Are you allowed to swim your way across the finish, Jimmy?
So you do have to be riding with your kite in the air on the board.
So what happens then? Because that doesn't look like that's what's happening. Is this? It's okay to drift across, is it, or does it have to be kite in the air?
So I do believe that Mikael said it has to be kite in the air. So we can hear AP ashore. Okay.
So there's going to be a postponement ashore. And look at this next rider. Is this Carl Mader who's just dropped, or is this another rider with a red kite? Someone has just dropped off the foil. And, well, so race start delayed, but...
So absolute scenes. We can see Laureat in the yellow bib in the background there, pumping towards the finish. This is carnage. There's a lot of obstacles, a lot of kites in going all different angles to avoid. So this race is still continuing. It's not abandoned. They're still going.
Oh, look at it. It's absolute kite carnage, isn't it? And Nolo is just about pumping
on both sides. The biggest victory in the world, and you're pretty stoked. And if you're one of the ones who's swimming, yeah, of course you'll be frustrated. It's
Well, let's go to a quick break. We'll be back to you shortly.
Is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
Okay, so we're down on the beach. We're in a brief delay on the with the racing because the breeze is down a little bit, but that gives us a chance to get out of the studio and onto Poota Beach, and we hope that we're going to find some of the riders to go and have a quick chat with. So let's start with our winner of the first two races. It's Max Mader. Max, perfect start to the day, and I know you believe a lot in good fortune and things like that.
Yes.
What was involved in crossing that finish line? Because I think some of the riders still out there with their kites in the water are saying they were unlucky and that you were lucky, but was it skill or luck that gets you across those lines?
Unfortunately, it's usually a combination of both, you know. The people with a lot of luck want the skill, and the people with the more skill, they always want the luck. And in my opinion, it's a little bit of both.
And that looked pretty sketchy at the end. I know you've been practicing your pump foiling. Are there times like that when you wish you'd done a little bit more practice? Because whilst you're one of the best, if not the best, at kitefoil racing, you're still a bit of a beginner at the pump foiling. And were you asking yourself, I wish I'd done more pump foiling practice like my brother Carl?
Certain times, yeah, you really wish you do. Today's such a day, but you know, I don't even want to talk about my pump foiling skill. That's it's horrendous to say the least. But that's why I try to avoid pumping at all times. So that means you ride as efficiently as you can, so that you don't have to pump, because pumping is your last resort, so to speak.
Now, I made the observation, you can correct me if you don't agree, but I don't often see Max Mader doing a port tack start, but you did one in that last race and you made it work. So what convinced you to go for that option?
First of all, I would assume that a lot of people wanted to go to the boat because it was proven to be nice on the right side last time. And that means that there will be a higher density of people on the boat, meaning that it will slow them down. And that means that there won't be any people pushing the pin because they want to go to the other side. Along with seeing that I'm in a less risky position because I have a lot of discards left, and being able to see that, you know, port was quite favored, I said, you know, why not? Give it a shot because it's worth it. It's shown to be proven. It's shown to be better on the right side, and people are going to be sticking to the boat. So it seems like a pretty safe port start to me.
Wow, you've just processed an awful lot, and I think you've given away far too much about what goes through your head. That's a lot of calculations, a lot of chess moves that you're playing there, the risk-reward discussion that you're having in your own mind. Have you got a coach here to talk that through, or is that all coming from you?
I mean, you develop it with other people as well, but, you know, the thing is that those things have to happen while your heart rate's at, you know, 150 BPM. So even if you knew it, it would be hard to cultivate a mindset to execute it, right?
Yeah.
So even if
it was all 6th, 5th, 4th places, so I thought, okay, my goal is to be a bit more risky, to get better scoreboards, and especially, yeah, I talked to my coach, like Jan Hauke, and we had the game plan just like, okay, if there's a chance to take more risk, we do it. If not, we stay with the consistent way, and I think that was the right move, and yeah, so I'm super happy that it worked out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and I hope the breeze comes back for you to keep pushing. Thanks, Flo.
Thank you.
So we'll take it to another break.
Sophia Tomasoni, you had a really close photo finish with Lauriane Nolot, and it looks on the results like you just managed to win. So congratulations on that. I know that Julia Damasovic, we later found out, was first woman in that finish, but that was a real close finish between you. You must have been pushing hard.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, Lauriane is really good rider, so it was hard to do this reach with her. So I had to push as hard as I could, and it was a really long race as well, almost like a bit more than 18 minutes actually. So we were both quite knackered and just like pushing really hard.
What's the target time for a race?
It usually is around 14 minutes, I'd say. Yeah.
And you looked pretty tired. You could see it from your body language. So what's hurting? Show us what is it? Is it your legs?
My legs, my ass a lot, and my calves, really hurting.
Now, how did that second race go? Were you one of the ones that managed to get across the finish line?
Yeah, so I did get across the finish line, but there were like so many kites, like just right there on the line, and I just asked the boat if it was cancelled, and it turns out it actually was. So yeah, that one doesn't really count, but hopefully we'll get some more races in today.
Oh, right. Okay, that's news to me. I didn't realise that. I thought with the finishes that we had that the race would stand, but you've had that confirmed.
I think they told me it has been cancelled, but maybe I'm wrong.
We'll wait and get some confirmation on that. Sophia, thank you so much. I wish you the best for the next 2 races. Fingers crossed that we get the. I've just had it confirmed the race was not abandoned. So if you cross the finish line, you got a score.
Okay, perfect, lovely.
Sophia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Quick break. We'll be back to you shortly.
Specially developed for Olympic kite racing sports. The VMG. Revolutionary, highly efficient, extremely fast. Velocity made good.
I'm going to see if we can. Oh, in fact, Jimmy's going to have a quick word with Lauriane.
Lauriane, so we've just spoken to Sophia and that extraordinary photo finish that you guys had in the first race. Tell me about that whole race and that amazing ending.
At this race, like the wind was really light, and at the beginning was like, usually when it's light, the right side is better. But I was checking where the top guys were planning to go, and I saw a lot of guys like starting to get ready to go to the pin and on the left side. So I was like, oh, maybe there is something there that I haven't noticed. And finally, I should have listened to myself, because like I went to the left and not the right, which was not the good choice. But yeah, and after, so I was like trying to catch, and like on the downwind I had like to double jibe because I saw some of the guys swimming in a hole of nothing. I was like, ooh, I don't want to go there. So I jibed and jibed again, and yeah, at the end I was with Sophia, and I think it was Brianna maybe with us as well. And I was like really trying to catch them, but I think Sophia made it before in front of me. But yeah, we were really close. And second one, same. We thought the wind was picking up, but the wind was shifting a lot. And it's a bit confusing. I don't really know if it's abandoned or no.
It was a crazy downwind as well, because you could almost lay that leeward in one.
Yeah. When I rounded the top mark, I was like, am I going to make the win just like without any maneuvers? But no, like we had to double jibe. Yeah, it was crazy, like how the wind switched to the left, and now it's like, well, it's still to the left, but it's on and off. It's a bit weird.
And were you expecting it to drop like that when you did that first lap? Were you kind of wary of the wind dying at the bottom?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think like we saw that it was starting to shift to the left, because like a lot of guys succeed to start on port in front of the fleet, so it was like already going on the left. But I was never thinking that it was going to go like that much on the left and die as well. I was like, oh, maybe it's just the wind shifting, but it's not gonna die. But yeah, we never know with the wind.
We never know. Yeah. And were you tempted to join the guys on that port cross?
I saw them to get ready to go on port, and I was talking with Maxime. I was like, I saw Maximilian is gonna start on port, and I was like, am I going or not? And the thing is, the guys are a bit faster than me, and I'm like, yeah, even if they succeed to cross the fleet, maybe I will not, and that means I have to tack below the fleet or whatever, and I'm going to be in a really bad position. So now I started at the committee, tacked and play safe, and it was a good choice until the whole of knowing at the end.
Oh, amazing stuff. Hopefully the wind comes through again later. And we'll take it to a break.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Alexia Fancelli, that was a pretty crazy finish to that race just then. How did it go for you?
I didn't manage to do the last one because I took a plastic bag just before the start line, so I crashed, and then there was no more wind at the start line, so I didn't manage to start in time.
Oh, that's sad. So did you stay on the water, or did you manage to get ashore and dry the kite?
No, I swam.
You swam back.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's not that far away, but I think it's probably far enough. That's quite a big swim, isn't it?
I was swimming, then a boat came close to me and picked me up to the beach, so it was okay.
But meanwhile, you're wearing the coloured bib. You went into the day in 4th place in the women's competition. How much are you looking forward to that medal series tomorrow?
I don't know if this evening I will still have this one because I had 2 really bad races today. So let's see the results. But I'm super motivated for tomorrow. I did a good things the last day, so I hope to do the same tomorrow.
Great. And did you manage to see any of that race just then? I'm thinking you were far too busy with your own problems, but did you manage to see all the action around you?
Not really. I saw a lot of people swimming too, and that's it. I'm sorry.
And that's why we're here. We're on standby to see if we get the other 2 races in this afternoon. Alexia, I wish you the best, and I hope you have 2 great races to finish the series today.
Thank you.
And a quick break. We'll be back to you soon.
Greedy. I'm getting so many features.
So, Carl, that was such a good race. Amazing port start, amazing strategy. You climbed through some of the top guys and amazing finish as well.
Yeah. Well, I remember saying to you on the first day, I think, watch this port start, and it completely failed and flopped. And today I saw it was perfect, and I just took the risk because in the first race I got a bit caught in the no-win zone, so I couldn't compete in it. So I was eager to get back in full swing.
Amazing, and it worked for you. And how did you make gains throughout the course as well? You told me you pulled out all of your best moves.
Yeah, well, I was trying to, on the downwind, I caught Cameron a bit. I tried to keep him behind me, but after a bad mark rounding, he could tack early and get the gust, and he overtook me. But the Polish, I was trying to keep him behind me. At least I wouldn't lose that place. And on the finishing reach, he overtook me. But he underlaid before the reaching. I overlaid, and I saw it was a bit upwind. I went a bit upwind so I could overtake him with speed. And while we were going down, I saw all the top guys pumping there. So I thought it was a later jibe just to be safe. And then I saw he was eager to jibe behind me. So I lifted my kite to fake him into jibing too early. So he had to pump more than I had to and go slower speeds than I had to. And then I jibed later and kept my place.
Carl made it with all the moves. Watch out, Speedy. And talk to me about that final finish line as well, because that was quite dramatic with people not making it, kites falling down.
There was only one thing on my mind to cross the finish line, like a survival mode. But I think all the pump foiling and trowns helped me a bit to just... And I felt at the end, it was like an energy bar. And I was getting so low at the end because I had to go down a bit, and the kite just had less and less and less power, and I was using my legs more and more and more. And then I just barely made it.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you did make it. That was such a good race. Thank you so much, and good luck for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Over to another break now.
The R5, built to win.
Right, Cameron Maramonides wearing the green bib, which means he went into the day in 4th place. But Cameron, a bit of a tough start for you in the first race. What was going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a really good start, but it was a huge course right favor. I was leading out to the left, And as soon as I tacked, I saw how much the people who went out right had gained. So then it was kind of just from that point, how many spots can I jump? Because I think I rounded in like, I don't know, 16th, 15th, and then managed to jump up to like 11th or something.
How did you manage that? Have you got good straight line speed?
Yeah, definitely. My speed is my biggest advocate when it comes to the racing, and yeah, so it was just kind of stay on your lane and go for speed, and I kind of have a posture that can give me a bit more depth when I'm going downwind, so that kind of helped me a bit. Yeah.
If you've got that posture, why doesn't everyone have that posture? What are you giving away state secrets here?
Yeah, slightly. I mean, it's just something that I've worked on quite a bit. It's unique. It's, some people might look at it and kind of be like, what the hell is this guy doing? But it ends up working for me. So
can you just show us now? Show us a norm.
I don't know if I can.
Oh, okay.
I might get scolded by my coach, Ed.
Giving away too much detail here.
Yeah, exactly.
So watch this guy carefully, because whatever it is, he's doing it well. Cameron, what about that last race? Did you manage to get across the finish okay?
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew that everybody was going to either go boat and try and bang out right. So I was like, well, I'm going to send a port start. We had quite a group at the port. I think it was like five boats. So kind of was below people and struggled a bit to get my angle right, but managed to cross the fleet on port. I think all of us did, and then rounded in like 6th, and I think I finished in 5th.
Very good. So you are one for the port tack start when it's on, and it really was on, wasn't it? It looked good.
It was definitely it was definitely a huge. It paid off massively. I think everybody who started in port finished within the top 6.
Now, I haven't met your chimp, but I know that his name is Fred. So that's who you tell that's the voices in the back of your head. How was Fred the chimp behaving in those races today? He must have been a little bit upset in the first one.
Yeah, after the first one, yeah, he was a bit upset, but it's one race. We got a long day to go, and it's if you dwell in the past, you're never gonna move forward. So it's kind of the most amazing thing about this sport is it teaches you life lessons too. You mess up, you got 10, 15 minutes to let it go and just have a clear mind to sail the next race.
Well, that port tack start, you threw Fred a banana then, didn't you? So he was a little bit happier after that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Cameron, all the best for the next 2 races. Let's hope the wind comes back and we get to see the best of you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Back to you soon.
So I'm with Lorenzo, and a consistent day so far, 2 third places. Yeah. But you're not happy with third. You want more. How did it go?
Yeah, today was pretty light compared to yesterday and the day before. Maximilian, like always, he's super fast, and in the first race I went to the left, but the right was paying more, so I had Maxim Nosher in 2nd place, and I had to fight with him all the race and didn't make it until seriously the finish line, and we were so close. In the second race, I had some girls blocking me to go to do the port start, so I couldn't jibe because there was no wind and I couldn't tack. So the guys started port, and I had to, after the start, I had to tack immediately. So I lost 50, 100 meters compared to the guys that started port. But at the end it was quite good. 1 mistake for race and 3rd place at the end is still okay. Good pace.
Yeah, I think it was pretty great.
Yeah.
And it was interesting in that first race. You definitely seemed pretty convinced on that left. We saw lots of people had very different strategies for it. Do you think, being a local, essentially a local here, is this a typical day that you are familiar with?
Yeah, I was thinking basically out there was a darker line, so it means there was more wind. So I was objective about the left, but at the end I never filled in, and the inside under the mountain paid a little bit more with more pressure. it was, like 50-50%, so like coin. And if you start peeing, you cannot go to the right. And I was like, okay, my main goal is to do a good start, clean air. So I did it and I went to the full left. Didn't really pay that much, but I still ran the mark fourth and overtook Flo at the up and the downwind, so it was okay.
Yeah, I think it was good because on days like today, people spread out so much, so there's not too many overtaking options, but you seem to be doing really well with the overtakes.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the pace I have here in these days. So, I mean, if you are just focused on going fast and doing what you know, you can just do what you can. And I was focused on overtook everybody in front, so I made it.
Amazing. Well, good luck for the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Specially developed for Olympic kite racing sports. The VMG. Revolutionary, highly efficient, extremely fast. Velocity made good.
Right. So, Simo, Orange Man, how has the day gone for you so far?
Not so lucky, actually. I thought I might wear my half of my suit, actually, the orange suit, but to wish me luck. But then it didn't work. I don't know why. So I was actually in a good position to be with my skills. But then I had a seaweed on the mast, and then I crashed on the first downwind, and then so I lost a lot of time before taking off again. And then on the last one, I was actually not too bad position, but then we were jibing with Maggie, and Maggie screamed something, and so I let the bar go, and the kite collapsed down. So I didn't swim, but I managed to fly it away again, but it was over.
So basically, you're standing here with your kite in the air because you're drying it out. You're trying to get the water out of it.
Exactly. That's why.
Now, are you disappointed by the level of sartorial sloppiness in the fleet? You're the only one wearing a tie. Do you feel like everyone else should make the same effort that you do?
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. Like more elegant looking.
I myself included, I can barely remember how to tie a tie. So did you look that up on YouTube? Who told you how to tie a tie?
No, actually my uncle did it before coming here because I have no idea how to do it.
So if you ever undo that tie, we're absolutely stuck.
Yeah, exactly. So don't do it, please.
Okay, hopefully there's a tailor or somewhere in Cagliari that would be able to tie the tie again.
Let's hope so.
Now we've seen a lot of you this week, and we love seeing you on this event, Simo. There's a lot of people taking this really seriously. It's Olympic dreams for them. What are your dreams? And tell us also about how far you've sailed on your kiteboard this year.
This year, I think so far I'm about 11,000 kilometers or more or less. And I hope to reach like 13,000 or something like that by the end of the year. But I skipped actually January because I've been sick. So January, no kiting for me. So in 11 months will be not 12. And yeah, actually, like all the fleet is amazing. Every time that I go in such a big competition, it's always like so thrilling for me, and to watch them, like, because they are absolutely amazing, unbelievable for me. And that's why I come here, because the thrill, the adrenaline that they give me to be in a fleet, such a high-level fleet, it's unbelievable for me. Such a cool experience and opportunity as well. So I hope that the KiteFoil World Series keeps going, because I have, most of the times, I don't have registered gear, and so I'm just an amateur. So if I have like the opportunity to be in the fleet with them, is just unbelievable for me. So I hope I can keep going like that.
And orange, I think of it as the colour not of Italy, but of the Netherlands. So what kind of following do you have in the Netherlands? They must be big fans of you.
Yeah, I think so. They always wondered why I wear orange, actually. But yeah, it's not really about nationality, but like, yeah, the love of the neon orange, that's it.
Well, every girl's crazy about sharp-dressed man, and you are the sharpest dressed man in this fleet, and there you are. Right, there's another roar of approval, but that one is actually the protest flag, sorry, the postponement flag coming down. So hopefully we're going to get back into racing soon. Simo, enjoy the next two races.
I will. for sure. Thank you, Andy.
We know you will.
See you later.
See you later. We'll be back quickly after this quick break.
Ciao. Thank you so
Ciao.
much, man.
Have a great afternoon.
You too, thanks.
Lena, there's a lot of confusion about whether that last race... Okay, so we are looking to get back into racing very, very soon. Oh, I think I need to watch out for something. I'm standing in the middle of some lines. You've always got to be careful when you are on the beach. We are going to go to a quick ad and we'll be back to you shortly.
Riprendere il campogara che nel frattempo in teoria dovrebbe essere stato accorciato per quanto riguarda...
Okay, it sounds like we can't go to that break at the moment. So, Jimmy, there's been a little bit of confusion about whether that race is allowed to stand or not. I understand that at the moment it still does stand. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because obviously a lot of people didn't finish the race and it was quite a difficult race to finish. But we did also see a fair good, like the majority of the fleet did finish that race. So it's hard to say, but it's nice that the breeze is coming back in. So at least we can have more racing. And there's Julia, who I was just helping close her vent. She's drying her kite, ready to go for the afternoon. And yeah, it's amazing. The kites dry quickly here. So even if they've had a swim, you can dry it and get back out there.
Julia Damasevic's kite looked particularly sandy. It was so sandy, I wondered, is it worth washing it first and then putting it back up in the air?
Well, what was good just then is it's dried, so we can just shake it out a bit, brush the sand off, and it's good to go.
Of course, you can't allow that to sort of cloud your thoughts that it's giving you any kind of disadvantage, but realistically, how much of a problem is that to go back out there in light breezes with a kite that's still drying?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't help, but I think with such a big course and, as I say, with the kites able to dry so quickly, hopefully it shouldn't make too much of a difference for these guys.
VJ is just coming across. VJ's cracked his backbone. This is the third of the Mader brothers. We've spoken to... Are you joining us this time, VJ?
I think Weekend saying no.
No, he's got other things to do, and Weekend, the caddy in the Mader team, is also a very reluctant interviewee. So I doubt we'll be able to get them on this occasion. But anyway, we've got to move because there is a kite about to go up in the air. It's Flo Gruber's. Just mind out, Marcus, our cameraman. And yeah, so VJ, did you see that last race? No. What have you been doing? You've been playing video games?
No, not really. I've been watching from that red buoy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have.
What have you seen so far today?
Not much.
No.
I guess destruction at least.
Destruction. Okay. Well, let's hope we keep destruction to a minimum for this afternoon's racing. I'm trying to... See you later, VJ. So now they're getting the kites in the sky and they will be thinking about what is the best approach. We had an incredible insight into the thought process that Max Mader goes through. And if you heard that 10 or 15 minutes ago, I was learning things from that. He'd worked out correctly that the port tack start was not such a risky option because he reckoned that starting at the boat was going to be so attractive to the fleet that there wouldn't be too much traffic down at the pin end. And we saw 7 or 8 port tack starters successfully get across all the starboard tack starters, and that launched him into the lead of that race. So 2 wins so far for Max Mader. And it's been a little bit more mixed up in the women, but it's still Lauriane Nolot from France who's leading the women's race. Quick break and we'll be back to you shortly.
tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
To the start of the next race. The riders are going afloat. Jimmy and I are back in the studio and looking to hopefully commentate on the next race very soon. Just to keep things flowing, let's do one of our pre-recorded interviews. And I spoke to Kai Calder, the US sailor, earlier. So this was a chat about some of the technology that some of the riders are bringing into play. Now, there's fewer ways than kite foiling to feel connected with the water, to have that sense of feeling. It is a feel sport, but Kai Calder is exploring other options because what we can't measure, we don't focus on. So the alternative to that, Kai, is the things that we can measure, we take more seriously. So how are you and others bringing data and bringing measurement to a sport that's measured mostly by feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really cool to see over the last few years, like a lot of different devices coming up to the scene. You have, the Vakaros unit, you have the Sailmon unit, you have other measuring instruments that can be added on to kind of calculate that data. And yeah, for such a feel sport, like you say, it's really good to be able to kind of measure your performance and make subtle adjustments and actually find a numerical difference in each thing.
Now, I think about a sport like cycling and people now use wattage, not actual speed. They use how many watts they're putting through their bike to measure their level of power and efficiency. Is there an equivalent number that we could apply into kite foiling?
I mean, obviously you have your speed and your heading, which is pretty basic for sailing to calculate your VMG, but there's definitely other ways of creating your own power that you can measure. And all of us are getting a lot heavier, so kind of how you use that weight, how you position yourself on the board is just super important, and you see a lot of different teams starting to get interested in that. So yeah, kind of trying to get creative with a few different ways on how we can actually measure that and find some measurable gains.
And we saw recently that the Australian riders Valentin Bontas and Alina Corneli had access to a wind tunnel. I don't know if you've had a chance to speak to them about that, but I mean, measuring the aerodynamics when you're doing whatever it is, you're doing 30 knots upwind or close to that upwind, and you're doing more downwind. I guess body shape aerodynamics is just as important as it is on a bicycle.
Yeah, I mean, you see, they posted a photo of it online. I feel like a lot of teams have been talking about doing something like that. So for them to actually get in there and do it, it's super impressive. And yeah, I just think that there's a lot of technology that we haven't even tapped into yet. I feel like, over the last few years, it's been about the basics of just sailing well and good fundamentals. And now we're kind of really getting into the nitty-gritty of things, and it's almost America's Cup-esque, and it's really cool to see them get into the wind tunnel, try and improve their stance, their posture, whatever it is that's getting them that extra little bit of performance.
Now, show me this bit of kit on the front of your board, because if this was a Formula Kite event, I don't think you'd be allowed that. But in a KiteFoil World Series event, one of the benefits is that pretty much anything goes. There's still rules on the race course, but you're allowed to use technology like this during the race. So how much is that helping you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. We've spent a lot of time, during the off season to really try and be able to measure what you're feeling on the water and get that direct feedback. So when, we've been training so much and being able to go out while you're racing. I mean, it's really easy once you're on the race course to kind of go back to your old ways. So to kind of in the heat of the moment when you're battling with everybody on the course, to kind of take a little peek down and see, am I actually doing what I've been working on? It's really good to kind of validate that and slowly, you know, make everything more natural that you've been working towards. So being able to have this in an open event it's really good, and you can just make quick gains, you know, on the course and just kind of cement what you've been working on.
And when you see other riders that are just going faster than you, and you just see it, and it's easy to say, well, they're more talented or whatever. Having that data point to chase after, does that make seemingly impossible or insoluble a little bit more achievable when you can put that target number on it?
You know, I think it's really cool that we track all of the races, you know, in the medal series and in the Gold Fleet stuff. So, you know, I'm sure everybody's going back, crunching the numbers and looking at things, and I think it's really good to have a target to kind of achieve, right? Like you said, it seems like it could be quite tough sometimes to really, you know, fathom what they're doing and what makes them so different. Sometimes they seem like they're superheroes, but to look at a number, to find a target, and to put it all together, and for you to be able to try and achieve that, you know, it makes it easier to bridge that gap.
Kai, thank you so much for that. So data becoming more and more important in this field sport. Yeah, so we were referring, Kai Calder and I were talking about a Vacros unit. We couldn't actually see it in that image, but it's fixed to the front of Kai's board. Have you tried any of that kind of thing, Jimmy? How's the data analysis worked for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It adds a whole extra element to your kiting, and I haven't tried a Vacros unit, but it's all of the data that it can give you is so valuable to improving and progressing. And I think, as Kai would say as well, just like working out that unevenness on port and starboard, which I think a lot of riders experience out there. They have a stronger side, a faster side, and you spend your days trying to work out, you know, why am I faster on this side? What is it? And that data can just give you that live reference of if you're trying different positions or different if you're experimenting, it gives you live feedback.
So what was your fast attack? Were you naturally faster on starboard or port?
Oh, it was always starboard for me. I found I struggled with port to put the hammer down in the same way that I could with starboard. So yeah, still trying to work that one out.
But that's probably, if you're going to have to choose between one or the other, I'm guessing starboard is the one you'd rather be stronger on, is it?
Yeah, starboard's good because you've got that off-the-line speed, and kind of extending on the fleet is important for everyone. But then also having a good fast mode on port is really important if you're coming into that ley line and you need to cross someone. And if you can back yourself with that speed, you can make that cross and be in the front.
When I was speaking to Cameron Maramonides just now, he was saying that part of what got him back into the race playing catch-up was he's got a really good stance for a good low downwind angle. So I asked him to demonstrate that stance, and he said that he was worried that his coach would kill him for giving away too much information. But how is it that a stance, the way that you stand on the board, can actually be fast or slow? I don't really understand that.
It's just the way that you're kind of transmitting the power that from the kite through to your foil. And I think the wonderful thing about kite foiling is actually there's no one correct stance. It's something that works different for everyone, different for body types and weights as well. So yeah, it's quite cool. It's very experimental, and yeah, you see a lot of variety out there.
One thing that changes your stance very quickly is if you hit a plastic bag and you have a crash. Now, Martin Dolence hit a plastic bag yesterday. Who was it who told us about a plastic bag just now? Was it? I think it was Alexia, maybe. Alexia Fancelli. So she hit a plastic bag. Might even be the same one. Could be that there's just one rogue plastic bag.
One culprit just floating around, getting all the kiters.
Yeah, it must have a few nicks in it from all the sharp foils banging into it. But she hit a plastic bag, which took her off the foil. A kite dropped into the water before the race, or pretty much as the race was getting going. So she had a long swim back to the shore.
And it's so difficult in this light wind as well, because as soon as you're off the foil, it's so tricky to get back up and going. And stuff like a plastic bag is just out of your control and really difficult to deal with.
Now, when you look at that set of Hobie cats in the very background near the horizon, those Hobie cats are moving quite nicely. So even the slow boats are moving. So hopefully that means that our foilers will be moving nicely. It looks all right out there. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, it looks much better now. I was with Julia on the beach. She was flying her kite so that she could dry it. And even she said, oh, I can feel a lot more power in the kite.
Someone struggling there in the middle of our screen, just they're in the water. They managed to get their kite back up in the air, so hopefully they can get moving soon. But some, I don't know, I'm concerned when I see that. What do you think, Jimmy? I see someone's just got up and running, so maybe it's not so bad. Both up and running.
Yeah, both up and running. So in the light wind, that's the kind of most challenging part, is to get from not moving to moving. And then once you're up and going, everything is a lot easier. It's a lot more doable. Just as long as you've got flow over your foil and air through your kite, you're going.
And can you ever actually relax when you're flying around on the board before the start? We've now got 6 minutes to go. Can you actually sort of kick back?
Oh, absolutely not, especially in the light wind stuff. I always found that I had to adjust my pre-start, mainly just to account for error and to account for that last minute jibe or tack. If it's really light, there is a chance that you could drop it. So yeah, giving yourself room for error and a bit of a safer run-in.
Well, let's give ourselves a quick break and we'll be back to you soon for the start of this race. Just over 5 minutes to the start of the next race. And Jimmy, we're back hopefully getting the final two races of the session done today. We've got two down, both won by Max Mader, and he did it despite all the pitfalls in the finish of that last race that we saw just now. It was that was crazy how difficult it was to get across the line, wasn't it?
Exactly. That looked so challenging, and hats off to him for seeing that early and doing that double jibe to make it through the line, because even some of the riders who could look ahead and kind of see that, even those guys struggled to actually make it through. So a very difficult finish that we saw there. And hopefully now the breeze is a little bit more established, but even so, Lorenzo, our local, he didn't know which way to go up the beat, so you got to really keep your eyes open for this race.
So we're in Porto Beach in the south of Sardinia. It's day 3 of KiteFoil World Series Italy. And this is the final two races coming up of the opening series, and it's all about trying to get into the top 10. Top 10 men, top 10 women are the only ones that will go into the final day to contest the medal series. And then the way the medal series is stacked up, it's there for anybody in the top 10 to win. And this is trying to achieve the double win of not only rewarding the best athlete with the gold medal, but also to keep it open, to keep the jeopardy, the potential for somebody else to take the win away. And at the moment, we have our two reigning Formula Kite World champions leading the men's and women's division, Lauriane Nolot in the women and Max Mader in the men. And the time is running out for the other men like Lorenzo Boschetti to take that yellow bib away from Max Mader. Would you think, Jimmy?
Exactly, but anything can happen in this medal series that we saw in Trounsey, so it's still, the floor is open. But as you say, our two reigning world champions have shown a very dominant season for both of them, so they're going to be hard to overtake, I think.
3 minutes to go to the start of the next race, and it's really important to stay on the foil throughout this. Yes, if you drop off the foil, you've got a chance of getting back up and running, but you just do not want to take that risk. So that's why they're flying around at fairly high speed, just to keep things going. We saw just the edge of a kite coming into vision there. Maybe that's still launching off the beach. Jimmy, what's the latest that you would ever want to launch before the start of a race?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, well, this start line is quite close to the beach, so I wonder what's the latest. You could probably send it in that final minute. I mean, it wouldn't be comfortable. The adrenaline would be going, but you could, if you just went full speed, you could probably hit that line on the go.
It is amazing to me how late they often do leave it, and it looks like some of them, whether by accident or by design, have left it pretty late. There's still 2 minutes to go, so there's still time. Now, we saw 7 or 8 riders pull off a really nice port tack start, and Carl Maders was so nice that his brother, Max Mader, was asking whether he had actually got a UFD disqualification, but Carl pulled off what must have been a really close, well-executed port tack for his brother to wonder whether it was legal or not.
Exactly, and so cool because that's how we left it in Trounsey, Carl doing that port start but getting the UFD, and so he'll be over the moon to have pulled it off, but claim that start and not get a UFD.
Yeah,
so good on him.
That's a really good observation. And just because it went wrong for him by a fraction of a second in Trounsey, that could have put him off from giving it another try. But it didn't invalidate the effort or the intention. It was just not quite properly executed. But this time he pulled it off to a T.
Exactly. And here you can see the trickiest part in this kind of light wind pre-start is all of the kites are kind of weaving through each other, everybody wanting to get onto that starboard tack. And it's tricky to find space for your kite to move for that tack, but everyone's nailing it pretty nicely here.
40 seconds to the start. Someone tacking in from port underneath the fleet on the bottom left of your screen, and they've successfully pulled off their tack now with 30 seconds to go, and we will try and keep an eye on if there's going to be any port tack starters in this race, because that has proved to be a very strong move in the previous race, in the previous start. 15 seconds to go and still riding at half speed. Someone's just dropped down on the left, and that's not ideal timing for them as their kite is about to collapse while the rest of the fleet hang on. Race start delayed. Wow, okay. There's Lauriane Nalot in the yellow bib just sailing across our screen, but we are on an AP, so we'll go to a quick break and come back to you shortly.
DR5, built to win.
So maybe the wind going a little bit funky. Well, that was a get out of jail for whoever's kite that is. Big wind shift apparently that I've just heard in my ear. So that's the reason why. So the wind being a little bit difficult with setting a fair course. And Jimmy, we saw how skewed the course became in one of the previous races. It was pretty much all the way down to the bottom mark on starboard jibe, and so that makes it hard to attack the leaders, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah, it definitely made it interesting for the riders. I think L'Oreal was saying you could almost just lay that leeward from the windward, but they did have to do one little tight jibe at the bottom there. But yeah, that was a massive shift, so I think it's going to be hard for the race officials to get that course if the wind keeps changing like this.
Yeah, I mean, from having 2 absolutely perfect days here on Poeto Beach, 4 races banged out in quick succession, this is the trickiest day that we've seen so far. It's a little bit more reminiscent of the ups and downs of Trounsey in Austria up in the Austrian mountains last week. That was tricky getting races away, wasn't it?
Exactly, but they did it, so hopefully they can do it again today.
Yeah, in the end it all worked out in Trounsey. That was the first of the KiteFoil World Series events. Now we're in Italy and Sardinia, and we will soon be moving on to China for one of the next events in the series. So this is quite a globe-trotting circuit that we're commentating on here, and Asia particularly strong in kiteboarding. When you look at what's typically a European-dominated sport with sailing, the Asians are coming on strong, aren't they? in kiteboarding, with Max Mader being the most notable example, but we've got Jingle Chen from China and other very strong riders from Asia.
And it looks like that's AP over H, so they're sending the riders to the shore, which I think is a good decision because it can be pretty stressful if the wind is light and you struggle to keep your kite in the air out there. So it's much kind of safer to be on the shore. You know you've got a dry kite, and when they're ready to go racing again, you can relaunch and get back out there rather than be swimming.
Okay, I would like to go to an interview about protesting, which we did with the Austrian rider Valentin Bontus. You can obviously see protests crop up at the end of the opening series when people are trying to get into the medal series by any means necessary. Well, let's just see them come back ashore. Actually, this is quite fun. It's like a fleet of, well, I was going to say seals, but that wouldn't be fair, would it?
Of seals.
That's not right. But anyway, no, let's just enjoy these images because even when these guys aren't racing, it's just a beautiful spectacle, and just being on the shore is quite exciting sometimes, isn't it, Jimmy? In amongst all those kites flying above your head.
Exactly, especially when they all come back at once. And even this part is technical in kiting, just the launching and the landing. There's skill to all of it, not just the racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so windy today at the moment, but there's still a lot of potential power in those kites. You've always got to treat them with respect, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. These kites can be incredibly powerful, especially on super windy days as well.
And so this is where the caddies come into play. If you're fortunate enough to have your own caddy, then they will be the ones catching the tip of the kite and making sure that it lands successfully on the sand. But if you don't have your own caddy, then, Jimmy, you just find anyone you can on the beach, I suppose, do you?
Yeah, we've had it at home where if you're doing a session by yourself and you come into the beach, you kind of flag down a dog walker, give them a brief explanation on how to land a kite, and then you hope that they've listened. But yeah, as we can see here, all you need to do is basically grab the wingtip of the kite and then run backwards into wind, and it lays nicely onto the sand there.
Now, who's this going in the wrong direction? That's Lauriane Nalot just sailing out of picture. So why would Lauriane be going out to sea, do you think?
I reckon because when there's lots of kites going into shore, sometimes it's quite hard to find your own space, and you don't always have ultimate control over your kite when it's this light. So almost to protect yourself from tangles, some of the riders might do a quick little lap to come back round when it's less busy on the shore.
Okay. So that's the situation on the beach. That's Poeto Beach in Sardinia, and there are the riders waiting their turn to come back into shore and pick their spot to come back in. And so when you get ashore, what's your routine, Jimmy, for sort of getting your mind and body in the right state, knowing that you may well go out competing again or you might not?
Yeah, so I think it's really hot here, so probably one of the first things is just to have water, stay hydrated, as Daniela Moroz always says, and yeah, just get some food, and I would wrap my lines up of my kite so that they don't get tangled with anyone else's on the beach, but still have your kite ready to go because racing could be imminent.
And there's not much of a decision today to be made about kite size. Everyone's going to be choosing the biggest they've got available, won't they? So that at least you don't have that headache.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a whole new element to it all. That kind of paralyzing decision when you're on the beach and it's like, do I go for my 21 meter or my 15 meter or any kite size in between that? And sometimes it's just impossible to decide, and you just have to go with something. And we do see a lot of the fleet, if one person makes a decision, sometimes the rest of the fleet follow, and it's whether you match the fleet or if you try and do something different to get the upper hand, but it doesn't always work in your favor. So there's a lot of strategy with kite size decision.
So it looks like Lorian Aloa is having a conversation out on the water with one of the other riders. Not sure who that is. Is it quite straightforward to be able to speak across from board to board?
Yeah, especially in the lighter winds. That's what I love about this sport. It's, even though it's an individual thing, it's just you attached to the kite, but you can chat to your friends, and even round the race course, it's still the audio is clear between each other.
Yeah.
So you can either chat in a friendly way or sometimes in an angry way if you're protesting. But yeah, you can hear it all. It's cool.
And just to update you, we're on standby at the moment. We're hoping that we're going to get the final 2 races done this afternoon. We've already had 2 completed this afternoon. We're waiting for the wind to sort itself out. Right, I've mentioned an interview with Valentin Bontas about the art and the science of protesting. Let's see what Valentin had to say about that.
The Olympic classes that I've worked in, by far the most fun are the Formula kites, and no one embodies this more than this guy, Valentin Bontas. Valentin, I hope you don't mind me saying, but you come across as the class clown sometimes. Is that fair to say?
That is absolutely fair to say. I'm happy to be making everybody laugh a little bit and kind of loosening everything up, because sometimes it gets very stressful and very strict around here, and then it's good to have somebody making a joke here and there. But then when it comes to being serious, I'm absolutely for it that you have to be on point with your performance.
I can see you getting more serious at times, but I also see that the whole fleet is getting more serious, and incidents that people used to let go, a touching of lines or a touching of kites, is now becoming an offence that some people are protesting. Do you think that the kiteboarding world can hold on to its innocence now that it's gone Olympic?
Well, I think, as you say, like touching lines and everything is a break of the rules, and I think we'll have to get into a stage where we have to separate the friendship kind of relationship to a professional racing relationship, because at one point, if it's for an Olympic medal, let's say, I'm not gonna just not protest you because you're my friend, right? We have to separate those 2 worlds for sure.
Well, Valentin, I hope you manage to keep that smile on your face and everybody else's. I do see it getting more serious, but if people can fight on the water and still be friends, I'm sure that would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's fair to say that everybody will be mature enough to separate those 2 worlds, and it's for sure going to be still a very good vibe around everybody, and professional and a proper way of living with everybody else.
Cool. Thanks, Valentin.
Thanks.
Okay. I understand that we are getting back into a sequence fairly soon, so the riders are on alert that they will be going and launching again pretty soon, and here comes one rider out already, and so hopefully that means that the wind is on the up and it's improving. And well, one of the main reasons why it was delayed was the hang on,
it's Dennis Taradin.
Oh, I was confused by the arms then. I thought maybe it was Max Mader trying to put his bib on while he was out on the water, which would have been quite a feat even for Max. But that's the yellow arms of Dennis Taradin, who is he's in there, isn't he? He's lying about 5th place overall, the Cyprus rider. So in with a chance of getting into that 4-rider final tomorrow afternoon. Now let's see. It looks like we might be lining up for that red and white postponement flag to come down fairly soon. Let's keep our fingers crossed that's going to happen and that we'll be back into it. So we're probably a few seconds away from that. We'll go to a quick ad and back to you soon.
So we can see Jan at the bottom of our screen. That's the German coach. And fun fact, he used to sail the 49er with one of our judges, Finn. So he's the chairman of the jury, to be more accurate. And he's a great character, used to kite himself, so he's one of those special coaches who actually kite races himself. He really knows the crack, and they're obviously doing a good job because these both German riders are pretty solid during this event.
Well, talking of 49er sailors and crossover, we've got a Spanish rider with a German name, Flo Trittel, who talks about transferable skills. So let's hear what Flo had to say about the moving between kite foiling and some of the other parts of the world of sailing. Flo Trittel transferable skills.
Man of talents, recent medalist in the World Championships in the 49er, his new class, NACRA 17 in the Olympics and Sail GP as well. And he used to be a kite foiler. What took you away from this amazing world, Flo?
Good question, eh? I come back and it's really amazing. So, yeah, it was 4 years since I last time came here, and probably what took me away is that back then it wasn't Olympic.
Right, and now it is, so maybe we'll see you back. But
no, I don't think so.
How transferable are the skills? How useful was this to take into your NACRA campaign and now Sail GP, for example?
Yeah, for sure. I think the kite surfing class has been leading with other classes, has been pioneering the transition from not foiling to foiling. And yeah, me being part of it has always given me that slight sort of leap in experience with foiling boats and foiling boards in this case. And I think what is very transferable in this case is obviously that fast decision making you have to be committing to, like things happen twice or 3 times as fast, and you have to be thinking 5 steps ahead to be making it right.
So Sail GP 50 knots top speed looks really fast, but actually which is the faster thinking game? Is it that or is it this?
Difficult question, eh? I think it's a tough answer, but I think at the end of the day all foiling classes they require that fast decision making, that thinking ahead, and obviously it's a different case on the F50s where we are 6 athletes on board. And we have to communicate, which is giving one extra step towards that cue. You have to be not only doing it, but also communicating it before doing it. So it's just making it longer. And that's maybe the only thing that differentiates it.
And do you think that some of the other riders here, some of the top guys and girls, can see a future in some of the other foiling events like America's Cup and Sail GP?
Yeah, definitely. I guess since it's so related. Them being used to such fast speeds, it is something that they can use for their advantage in future. Obviously it's a different class, and I think what I've seen now in these 4 years that I've been away and now coming back with it being established as an Olympic class, you see how much more professional it gets, how the teams are starting to work with all that Olympic knowledge from their country that they can get, and they will build up on that, and I think that's sort of the gap that they can close towards the sailing classes, and then from there on they will be fully competitive.
Flo, great to see you back here. Look forward to seeing a lot more of you and at next year's World Championship.
Likewise, thank you.
So Flo Trittel, he will, Jimmy, he's going to be a busy boy this weekend actually, isn't he? What's he up to this weekend?
So Sail GP Cadiz is currently on at the moment, as we speak, I think.
Yeah, so that's his home event because Flo sails as part of Team Spain, and they actually, as a team, won their first event a couple of Sail GP events ago, and they've been struggling at the back of that fleet, which is no disgrace because Sail GP is absolutely packed with stars, a lot of them with backgrounds in foiling. But Flo Trittel, his 49er helmsman, Diego Botin, and the rest of the team, they've really started to get it together in Sail GP. And of course, Flo Trittel also doing very well with Diego Botin in one of the other Olympic classes, the 49er. Regulars on the podium and definitely among the favourites for an Olympic medal next year in Marseille. But we know that Flo keeps a special place in his heart start for the kiteboarding world, and there are some people I hear who have a special place in their heart for Flo as well. So apparently quite popular, not just for his results on the water. So I hear, but anyway, I couldn't say any more than that.
We can't say any more than that. No. But actually, funnily enough, Maximilian, I'm pretty sure it was the Spanish boat when SailGP came to Singapore. Max got to actually jump on board, which is so cool to see that crossover between these two foiling worlds of SailGP, kite foiling. Very different craft, but really pushing those top speeds and, yeah, incredible technical developments in both in both worlds.
And it makes me think, again, I keep on coming back to this Max Mader interview that I did probably half an hour, 40 minutes ago. But when I asked him about why did, I said to Max, you hardly ever do a port tack start, so why did you do it then in the race that we saw an hour or so ago? And the way he talked through the thought processes of, he put himself in the shoes or the foot straps of the other riders out there on the water and said, well, we've seen that the right is paying, so there's going to be a lot of people stacking up near the committee boat, looking to make that early right-hand turn at the committee boat, so that should free up a bit of space at the pin end. So I think that if I go for a port tack start, then I should be able to pull that off fairly cleanly and without too much risk. And clearly he wasn't the only one that was thinking that, because his brother Carl was another one thinking the same way, and there were 7 or 8 that made that move. But Max correctly weighed up that the port tack start was actually going to be a relatively low risk start and a very high reward. So I'm just constantly amazed by how smart that 17-year-old is to be able to think so clearly. And as he pointed out in the interview, you've got to be thinking all these things while your heart rate's going at 150, 160 beats a minute. And all of us know that when we're working that hard, it's really hard to think clearly, isn't it?
Exactly. It's incredibly impressive to see such kind of solid strategy and clear risk management and mitigation from someone so young. And I wouldn't put it past him to actually be one of the younger guys to drive one of those F50s in SailGP one day. I could see him kind of having a future career in something like that, because he has some really good brains on him.
I totally agree with you. I think having to manage everything that you do with a board under your feet doing 30 plus knots with a 23 meter kite above you, and you've got to be your own tactician and strategist. You've got to do everything that other people on a SailGP boat do. For example, they split all those roles 5 or 6 ways. So I would say potentially getting into the helm of a SailGP boat in some ways would be a simpler job than the one that a kiteboarder has to do. Be interesting to see if it's not just Flo Trittle but others that get picked up from this world and have a career in other parts of sailing in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen Daniela hop on board as well. And it's really cool to see the crossover.
So that's Daniela Moroz.
Daniela Moroz,
the USA 6-time world champion. She won the 6 of her world titles in Calgary almost exactly this time last year. That was the biggest event of 2022, and Lauriane Nolot was really pushing hard on Daniela Moroz, and I think that the sheer speed of Nolot through the water made some of us wonder if Nolot was going to win her first world title last year. But in the end, in the final, Daniela Moroz, even though it was windy, was actually not able to match Moroz, and it was partly the waves. It was pretty wavy here last year, and I think Daniela just felt right at home. It felt like riding in San Francisco, which is where she learnt her craft.
That's so true. Yeah, she's learnt in one of the most challenging venues in the world, really. San Fran is iconic for kite foilers, and yeah, it set her up really well for last year's Worlds in very challenging conditions.
And there's another kite foiler in SailGP. Tell me who that is and what you know about them.
So Riley Gibbs. I'm not too informed about Riley's history really, but again, it's so cool to see that there is actually a few of us kind of pushing through into that world.
Right. Now we've got 13 minutes to go. I want to run an interview that we did with Lily Young about the issue of weight and how weight factors into going fast in kite foiling. So let's see if we can get that Lily Young video up.
Seems like foiling and the speeds that people are doing, the heavier you are, the faster you go. And so I'm wondering aloud to Lily Young here from GBR, what kind of pressures that creates, particularly for girls and women?
A lot, and I think definitely the average weight of the fleet has increased a lot in the last year. We've had surveys put out up to do with the next cycle about the maximum kite sizes females should be able to use, and at the end of the day it's very tricky because certain people are going to be benefited from weight caps on the kite sizes to the women's fleet.
Okay, and what's your personal feeling about that? Because obviously girls and women want to be one side for sort of general day-to-day living and feel good about themselves, but if you've got that, if you know that if you're a bit heavier you're going to be faster on the water, how do you play that compromise?
I think it's definitely really tricky because it is elite sport we're doing, and weight definitely plays a part, as it does with lots of other different sports as well. I think having a weight cap, we need to be really careful about what weight that is and how that affects the general fleet and how it affects the individuals in the fleet as well. I think looking forward there needs to be some deep consideration, I think, into how the next few years are played out with the weight in the women's fleet and the size allowances that there's going to be for the next cycle.
Yeah, and so that could be that we don't see 23 square metre kites in future. It could be that the limit goes to 21 or something like that. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, the main thing is the bigger kites. They're looking at the limits of the larger sizes, as they're typically the ones that are harder to hold on to for smaller riders, and what those limits would look like could be limited to an 18 metre, could be limited to a 23, which is generally the biggest that the men use. So people have been voting, there's been lots of discussion, so in the next few coming, I think, months, we'll see how that unfolds and what things come out of the surveys.
All right, well, thanks for clarifying that, Lily. Weight, as you say, is always an issue in elite sport, pretty much whatever we're talking about, and kiting's no different, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways for people to put on weight. It's harder for some than others to put on weight. You obviously want to put on weight in the best way possible, which is usually by lifting in the gym. But it's definitely tricky. It's definitely a difficult subject for lots of coaches to approach with their sailors, and lots of people to work out, mentally, about how they're going to get better, especially if you're one of the smaller riders and you're struggling to hold on. It's definitely a big issue.
All right, well, thanks for talking about it, Lily. Cheers.
Cool.
So, Jimmy, up until quite recently, you were part of the British kiting squad, so you must know Lily extremely well. That interview that I did with her was a few months ago. Can you update us on, she was speculating about kite sizes, whether they were going to reduce or not. Where are we up to with that?
Exactly, yeah, so that there was a lot of discussion over that, and the decision has been taken to put a limit on the kite sizes. So for men, the biggest kite size will be a 21 square metre, and for women the biggest will be a 19 square metre moving forward into the next cycle.
Okay, now I've spoken to some riders about the kite sizes and how that's going to affect weight, and some argue that actually it's not going to change it that much, that the heavy is still going to be rewarded even with the smaller kite sizes. Why would that be, and do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think there's two things to take into consideration. It's the kite, but it's also the foil. So I think something could be said for actually manufacturers developing female-specific foils. So again, reducing the glider size as well. So it's less powerful for the lighter riders to use, and they can get more out of the foil. And I think kind of marrying up those two things together, you could then have lighter riders on adapted equipment, or just kind of give them the option, like the heavier rider wing and the lighter rider wing. And I think, yeah, a mixture of these things could help to help with that. But at the end of the day, yeah, having some weight behind you does help transmit the power of the kite into the foil and ultimately result in a faster pace.
And how much did you try to vary your weight from the norm? Did you try and put on weight?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I lived with Max and Colmader in Brazil for about 3 months, and I tried to keep up with their diet, and they were so sweet. They were helping me kind of try and put on weight to get those speed gains. But gosh, I did struggle to get the sheer amount of calories you need to get in when you're kind of balancing that with training as well and in the gym. So you're using a lot of calories, but you also need to consume a lot, and it's kind of an art form in itself. But I was impressed with those boys and how they can eat, and they're so good at cooking as well. Take after their mum.
And so you're not actively campaigning now. So have you lost some weight since you were campaigning?
I would say so. I guess I don't eat like a kite foiler trying to put on weight anymore, just normally. And yeah, I guess maybe lost a little bit, but not actively trying to.
And you managed to run the other morning 23 kilometres in just one morning before breakfast here in Cagliari. So I'm not sure that all kiters could do that, because some people have had to really bulk up for being fast in a straight line on the board. But you're obviously maintaining your fitness in a really impressive way. It's obviously part of your regime.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. I do think kite foilers have extraordinary stamina as well, and there's such thing. I think all of them would say you can be kite fit. So for example, I mean, Orange Man does incredible long distance kite adventures. He told us today he's done over 48,000 kilometres in total on his kite, and he'll sometimes do sessions well over 100 kilometres in one go. So I think kiters have this extra kind of fitness to be able to keep going in these really long races where you're really pushing. And I know that a lot of them love cycling, and put them on a bike, and the power and the watts you can get through is amazing. So I would certainly say these guys are fit.
Yes, no, and I wasn't trying to say that they weren't. It's just I think running is not part of the regime of some of these guys, but leg strength, pure leg strength, being able to effectively do a wall sit for 14 or sometimes 18 minutes, which is the length of one of these races. If you can sit against the wall for that length of time, I'm sure you could. I know I couldn't get anywhere close to that, but Sophia Tomasoni, when I spoke to her an hour or so ago, was saying that race where she finished second across the line in that photo finish against Lauriane Nalot, she was complaining that was an 18-minute race, and she was hoping it was only going to be a 14-minute race, and that extra 4 minutes of wall sitting was making her legs burn. You could see that, couldn't you?
Yeah, I can relate to that so much. And it's like you'll be doing the upwind just begging for the downwind to come, and then you'll be doing the downwind just begging for the upwind to come, and it's literally, it's just because you're static in that one position pushing so hard, and it's just that kind of change of stance, change of position to just bring your legs back to life again. But it can be really exhausting, and especially in these harnesses we use, you've got the power of the kite that you're literally transmitting through your hips, and it can be quite painful sometimes.
All right, a quick break and we'll be back to you soon.
Specially developed for Olympic kite racing sports. The VMG, revolutionary, highly efficient, extremely fast. Velocity made good.
So we got just under 4 minutes to go before the start of the next race, and we've got a yacht in the race course. Hopefully that yacht will be off the course by the time we get going. The rider's just testing out the pin end of the line. That's the red mark there. Oh, actually, sorry, no, that's the leeward mark, not the pin end. The pin end is actually a boat. So they will be working out whether there's enough bias, whether there's enough angle in the line to attempt the brave port tack start, which we saw work really well in the previous race. Jimmy, how are conditions looking? Does that look solid enough for you?
Yeah, it looks much better, I would say. We're seeing less kites falling out of the sky, less people in the water. So yeah, it looks a lot more stable and more similar to the other days as well.
3 minutes to go, so that's the warning signal. And some of the riders have a camelback out there. You were talking about Daniela Moroz, the 6-time world champion, saying you've got to stay hydrated. And you see a lot of the riders do actually have the camelback with a tube led round to somewhere near their chin. And does anyone actually drink during a race? Do you have time for that?
I would say some people probably do take little sips throughout the race course, but it's definitely so much nicer having water on your back when you're out there, because if it's quite tricky conditions and it's harder to sit on a coach boat, or maybe some of the riders don't have a coach boat to be able to take a bit of water, then it's really good to just have the option when it's in your camelback, on your back, and you can keep drinking.
Yeah, so, well, they might have to keep drinking for a while longer, actually, because there is a short delay on that race course, and that pesky yacht that I just mentioned a minute or so back is the reason why the start has been delayed. So hopefully, I mean, that yacht doesn't know that they were in the way, otherwise I'm sure they wouldn't have been there, and everyone's got to share the water here off Poeto Beach, especially on a weekend, but with the boats or these boards flying around at the speed they do, we can't afford to have yachts in the middle of the race course. There's just too much hazard involved. And it looks like our course marshals have got a bit of work to do. It's getting far too popular.
The kite race course.
if you want to spectate this race, get ashore, find a TV.
We've got a winger as well.
Oh, wow. So we got, a little wing foiler buzzing through the course as well. So this is the last thing we need. It's hard enough getting these races away, and now it's all getting rather too popular. So this, we see the Rib looking to shepherd these yachts away from the race course and to allow us to get the racing underway. So while we're on a little bit more of a delay, I'm going to continue on that theme of talking about weight that we were just discussing with Lily Young, and I want to hear the viewpoint of Axel Marzella, one of the French riders who's vying to get to next year's Olympics.
The little guys in the top 10 of this World Championship. So I found this guy, Axel Marzella, 85 kilos, 185 centimeters. But Axel, you're trying to get bigger as well. Just quickly tell us why that is.
Yeah, we've seen during these years that we have to be bigger. We need to gain some weight to push the big sizes forward, even in a strong wind. So everyone now is trying to just going to 90, 95 Ks. If you look at the top 10, especially into the guys, we are all around 90 and plus. Expect some guys like Ricardo or Maxime Nochet or even me or Théodore Amcourt. So yeah, we have to. I mean, this is the way now. I don't know if it's a trend or what, but yeah, this is the way.
So the IK have been talking about limiting kite size. I've heard some people say no, you shouldn't do that. Should be open development. What's your view about putting a limit on maximum kite size?
I think it's a good idea. I'm working with Ozone, and we think that we have to do a limitation, especially on a big size, not on the small sizes because of the security. But on the big sizes, especially when it's like Gizaria weather, when it's super stable and no wave and pretty easy condition, it's most about the body, how can he hold a big size on the upwind, and then you have a lot of power on downwind. And when you're like 80 Ks or you're not super tall, I mean, it's hard to fight against the big guys. And if you look at the girls, it's the same problem now. So yeah, for me, I think it's a good idea to stay in 21 or maybe 23, but yeah, not more.
Axel, thanks very much.
So there's the viewpoint of Axel Marzella. Now, that was actually recorded in Sardinia a year ago, so that's why we were speculating about kite size in that way. And Axel Mazzella at the time, I was concerned that he was maybe starting to get left behind because he hasn't really changed his body shape. He's still, looks like a good shape, the shape that he started out kiteboarding. He hasn't absolutely piled on the pounds, Jimmy, and he's had a really good 2023 season. So it seems like you can, or some riders anyway, can stay pretty much as they are and still be world class.
Yeah, that is so true. Axel is such a legend and one of the best kite foilers in the world. And I think he has a lot of experience behind him, and he's just an incredible rider. And as you say, he doesn't necessarily, somehow he makes it around the course a lot of the times in that first position without having to have that extra weight. We see him be one of the first guys to change down a kite size if the wind does start to build, and he makes that work.
And he was the gold medalist at the test event in Marseille. So basically the warm-up regatta for the for the Olympics next year. So. And Lauriane Nelot, who we see struggling in the water, she was the gold medalist also for France at the test event. And Lauriane Nelot, I think, has changed her attitude to light winds in the last year. I used to hear Lauriane complain a lot about unsuitable conditions for racing, and now she's learnt to accept it, and it's nice to see that she's got a smile on her face there at the moment as she's having a little dunk in the water. So you've got to be ready for all conditions, don't you? You can't complain and say no, this isn't suitable, because you can't afford to be in that mindset, can you?
Exactly, yeah, you have to take whatever the weather throws at you, really. And I think she's having a little giggle there as the riders have been sent back ashore, and she probably just wants to get racing. But yeah, the wind is playing with us today.
Oh, crikey. Okay, so we're coming back ashore again from what Jimmy's just told us. And so further delays. To be fair to that yacht, or those yachts that got in the way, maybe they did us a favour. Maybe that it was a false dawn. Anyway, there's on the left with the colourful legs. That's our race officer Mikhail Jodlowski, and there's Claudio in the blue T-shirt, our local talent on board the race committee boat. And Jimmy, they seem like they've got their work cut out today, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. These guys are working hard to get the races away, and very Italian there.
So Claudio is enjoying the day on the water, even though it's proving not to be a perfect day for kiting. He's saying it's time for us to go back ashore. So now you can see with that scenario, Jimmy, that's quite difficult, getting back ashore and keeping the kite in the sky by the look of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a challenge, and again, you've got that space issue and just trying to weave your way through the others and keep your kite dry.
Right, we will go to a break and we'll be back to you in a moment.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
Okay, I understand we can see results now. So let's see if we can bring up the results and the scores after the two races earlier today. So that's the situation. It started with a 2-point gap between Max Mader and Lorenzo Boschetti, but now that's stretched to 6. So it's getting harder and harder for Boschetti to close that gap. And looks like Max Mader is going to go through to tomorrow with the yellow bib, that critical yellow bib. Equally, Boschetti with a massive 25-point gap on Martin Dolence in 3rd place, but super close between Dolence and Flo Gruber. Gruber's had a really good day today. And Cameron Maramonides started the day in 4th. And he's just okay. So there may be some corrections that need to be done on that. So I don't know if we can go on that as purely correct. Kite's coming back ashore. We are at 4:30, and the previous 2 days we had managed to wrap up racing by about 4 o'clock. So. Jimmy, I don't know how much time you spent in Kellery, but is there enough heat and enough thermal effect left in the day to get racing again, do you think?
Well, I mean, already these conditions are so unusual for this time of year. We're used to like 35 to 40 knots offshore, pretty cold, gnarly conditions. So to arrive at the beach and get the sun and the onshore is already so different to what we're used to. So even Lorenzo was like, oh yeah, this is unusual. I don't know what to expect from today. So I mean, I couldn't call it.
Okay, well, this is the dilemma that all riders have to go through. They have to cool themselves down, both physically and mentally, because you can't be switched on. You can't have the adrenaline pumping all day. But you've got to keep enough of your game face on to be ready to get out there and go racing again. So, Jimmy, I see riders do this in all different kinds of ways. What would you be doing now? Do you like going and have a chat, or do you like putting the headphones on and disappearing into your own world?
Oh, it's a good question. I'm quite chatty. I love the fleet. Everyone's such a great character. Everyone's friends, and yeah, I'd probably just be chatting to some of my mates out there.
Okay, yeah, because you are a very social animal. Now, I understand these are the corrected results, so it's more or less as we said, except that. So the top 3 are the same, but Cameron Maramonides is still in 4th place, and Flo Gruber not as high as we had him before. But look how close it is on those points, Jimmy.
Yeah, that is really close. A lot of the riders are in the 40s in terms of points, so still a lot of switch-ups that could happen before our medal series if we do get more races. Yeah, really interesting, and such a variety of results. You can see that even the top guys in that race before really struggled on that final reach when the wind died.
Now, I don't know if we can go any further down the results, but that would be great if we can. Kai Calder on 82 points, so it's so we can't go lower than that at the moment in terms of what we can show you on screen. But we will have a look when we get a moment to look on the website, and you can do that for yourself as well. And Kai Calder is just squeaking inside the top 10. He's on 82 points. So I'm sure there will be others just on the cusp of qualifying for the medal series. So these final 2 races, assuming they happen, will be very critical for the likes of Kai Calder. And just going to bring up the results on the website for myself. So we've got Kai Calder. No, I can't make sense of them at the moment. So let's stick with that. The Kai Calder is in 10th at the moment, and let's see how that plays for him. Quick ad, and we'll be back to you soon.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
Okay. So the race is delayed at the moment. There's the scene on Poeto Beach. Kite's mostly on the sand. Yeah, so it's Kai Calder in 10th at the moment, so he's the one that will be, well, in some ways, maybe hoping that there is no further racing today, because Kai will have made it through to the medal series, which will be a big feather in his cap. But of course, most people will still be hoping that the next two races are going to be able to go ahead. Let's go to an interview that I did a while back with Stevie Morrison, who's not a kiteboarder, but he's been coaching in the world of kiteboarding very successfully with the British riders.
So I've been part of the British sailing team for since I was young and I was a sailor. I started off in the skiff classes, racing the 49er class. Went to the London Olympics, went to the China Olympics before that. Won the World Championship, European Championship, and was somewhere near the front of that fleet for probably far too many years. But I've now evolved to the coaching game, and I do work in sailing outside of the Olympic scene as well. But yeah, just here to get a feel for what kite surfing is. You know, 49er sailing was very revolutionary in 2000 and seen as the crash and burn, fast and furious side of sailing, and now kiting is going to take sailing to the next level, I think, and it's great to come and see it. Sailing is sailing, and it's evolving all the time. Kiting can sometimes be called not sailing, not real sailing, and of course it's not sailing as some people would remember it, but fundamentally you're trying to get across through the water powered by the wind as fast as possible. And when you see Sail GP, you see the America's Cup, that's very much not sailing from the 1800s. It's into the modern age, and the Olympics is all about the youth. It's all about pushing things forward and trying to find the limits, and the limit of our sport now is foiling. And kiting's very much the cutting edge of that. So when I've been out there watching the race, and yesterday, I can assure you it's a sailing race, it's just happening an awful lot quicker, and the decision making has to be like that, and you've got less decisions to make. So in some ways it's an awful lot harder, because your reaction time has got to be quicker, but your decisions are fewer, so they've got to be more accurate. Yeah, so my 49er background has led me in many different ways. I'm now working as a commentator for Sail GP. Love it or hate it, but certainly I enjoy it. And when I see Sail GP, I see an awful lot of the 49er class, the skiff sailors there, and it's really interesting to come here. And I've seen Iker Martinez, who was the gold medalist in the 49er in Athens, two-time world champion. I've seen a lot of 49er skiff sailors. We've brought other Olympic sailors with us as part of the British team here. So I think, you know, that skiff background, that fast, quick decision-making type racing is where kiting sits. Now, clearly, we're not going to be able to teach anyone how to kite, but we've seen a lot of these sort of set play type manoeuvres and this fast tight racing, and I think that's where perhaps we can offer some thought.
Okay, so kites are down on the beach. It sounds like it's increasingly unlikely that we're going to complete the other two races in the opening series. It could be that it's just the two races that we've already had today. Now, we've been trying to fix the results. Let's see if we can bring the results up and just check, see if there's any change in that. I'm not sure. So anyway, Jimmy, I think, what are we hearing there? I hear some sound signals. It sounds like we are done for the day. And there's something going on the bottom right of screen. There's some kind of wrestling going on down there.
Georgia Speciale.
So what's Georgia up to? She's
just supporting her boyfriend Ricardo.
Okay.
Yeah.
But wrestling some.
It looks like Maggie.
So Georgia in the bikini, she's also an IQ foil competitor. So she's doing her own Olympic campaign in the foiling windsurfer. Is that right? Hello, girls.
Brilliant.
But anyway, looks like they're going to do a rendition of Pulp Fiction for us there for a moment. But anyway, it sounds like we're done for the day.
It does indeed.
Okay, so that's a pity. That is good news for at least for Kai Calder, who we saw in the results. Looks like he's booked that 10th spot in the opening series, in the medal series tomorrow. So that's what tomorrow is going to be all about. We hope the breeze will play ball for that. It's a bit of a shame that as we get into our live stream that we don't have the same reliable conditions we had the last 2 days. So we hope we see the best of Poeto Beach again tomorrow. And tomorrow is all about the top 10 in the men and the top 10 in the women battling it out for those medals. At the moment, it's Max Mader from Singapore, who's wearing the yellow bib and leading the men's competition. And in the women, it's Lauriane Nelot from France, who is wearing the yellow bib. So they will go in to the final. They've already booked their spot. So too will Brianna Whitehead from Australia in the women with the blue bib, and it will be Lorenzo Bischetti in the blue bib. So those 4 athletes I've just mentioned, 2 men, 2 women, will go through to the final. But as for the rest of the top 10, the other 8 riders, they have to fight their way through the knockout rounds, the repechage, the quarterfinal, the semi-final, and then into the final. Jimmy, it's been great to see different tactics today. Thanks for your insights into why they were doing what they were doing and when and what was working, what wasn't.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's do it all again tomorrow. So from Jimmy Craythorne and from myself, Andy Rice, and all the team here in Poeto Beach, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow afternoon for the conclusion of KiteFoil World Series Italy. See you then.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.